Welcome to another video on the Old Testament. Today we will discuss some important aspects of the Pentateuch. The Pentateuch, as you know, comes from two Greek words, Penta and Tukos. Penta means five and Tukos means scrolls. So the word Pentateuch altogether means five scrolls. The Pentateuch is a Christian title. The Jews do not use this title. Instead, traditionally the Jews use the title Torah. Torah means law. It can also mean instructions or guidance in Hebrew. The title suggests that the Jews wanted the Torah, now known as Pentateuch among Christian circles, to be read as God's law or God's instructions or guidance for living under God in the present. The books in the Pentateuch includes Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The Hebrew title for these books are Bereshith, Shemot, Vaikra, Bimidbar, and Devarim. Now, the $1,000,000 question. The primary question, the only debated question among Pentateuchal researchers regarding the authorship of the Pentateuch. Who might have written the Pentateuchal narratives? The Jews and Christians traditionally believed that Moses, the towering personality in Pentateuchal narratives, wrote a significant portion, if not the entire Pentateuch. Modern scholars do not approve this line of thought. They are more concerned with the repeated accounts of the same action or story, the occurrence of statements or commands that are incompatible or inconsistent with each other, vocabulary and style, the use of different words for the same thing, including, for example, different names for God such as Yahweh and Elohim. Then variations of style, the appearance of different viewpoints on matters of religion in particular, but also on other matters. Such inconsistencies and semi-contradictions prompted modern scholars to disapprove the traditional belief that Moses wrote the Pentateuch. The modern scholarship concludes that the Pentateuch was produced by multiple authors working in different times and then edited together. This line of research is called documentary hypothesis. The documentary hypothesis is also called JEDP theory. It states that the first five books of the Bible, called the Pentateuchal narratives, consisting of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, were not written completely by Moses, but by different authors. This hypothesis suggests that there are four primary documents, such as J, which designates God as Yahweh, E, which designates God as Elohim, a documentary source, which is some instructional elements, and a P source, priestly source, lies behind the Pentateuchal narratives. Now, let us look into each tradition in detail. The J or Yogistic Tradition. The Yahwist, often abbreviated as J, is one of the most widely recognized sources of the Pentateuch. This source, as I mentioned, designates God as Yahweh. Literary critics consider Yahwist as the oldest Pentateuchal tradition. This tradition might have emerged around 900 BC, around the time of Solomon or in the early years of the divided monarchy. Yogistic source received its definitive form in the southern kingdom of Judah. After the destruction of the northern kingdom in 721 BC, J was conflicted with the Elohist tradition. Now let us go to the Elohist source. The Elohist is one of the four sources of the Pentateuchal narratives. Each tradition uses the title Elohim for God. Elohists must have been composed in northern Israel around 800 BCE. Elohist and Yogistic source were composed or combined to form JE after the destruction of the northern kingdom. The Elohist tradition, because it was composed in the northern Israel, promotes Israel over Judah. Each tradition also promotes Levitical priests over Judah's Aaronite priests. Recent reconstructions suggest that the Elohist may have been written before the Yahwist, or else they leave out the Elohist altogether, proposing a DJP sequence written from the reign of Josiah into the post-exilic times. Now let us go to the D or Deuteronomy source. The documentary hypothesis suggests that the D source wrote the book of Deuteronomy during Josiah's time. Mainly, it is the instructional or preaching material. It used language, concepts, and theological perspectives very similar to that found in the book of Deuteronomy as well as some of the prophets. The main theme of the D source is faithfulness to Yahweh and obedience to His commands, which brings blessings, while worshipping foreign gods and negligence to Yahweh's statutes bring a curse. And the final source, the fourth source, P or priestly source. The P material was understood to be a priestly material. We can identify the P source in the book of Leviticus. This source developed during the Babylonian captivity. It focuses on the concerns of priests serving in the Jerusalem temple. The source includes technical record keeping and legal traditions related to the proper functioning of the temple and its associated activities. Documentary hypothesis believe that J, E, D and P sources were joined together at various points in time by a series of editors or redactors around 400 BCE. The documentary hypothesis established itself as a dominant paradigm to explain the emergence and development of the Pentateuchal narratives in the modern era. The consensus around the classical documentary hypothesis, however, has now collapsed. This is triggered in large part by the publications of John von Setters, Hans Heinrich Schmidt and Roll Rentroff in the mid-1970s. These revisionist authors argued that J was to be dated no late earlier than the time of the Babylonian captivity, that is 597 to 537 BCE. They rejected the existence of a substantial e-source. They also called into question the nature and extent of the three other sources. As a result, there has been a revival of interest in the fragmentary and supplementary models. To conclude this brief discussion, this video attempts to provide a brief introduction to the Pentateuch. Of course, the Pentateuch, especially the documentary hypothesis which explains the emergence of the Pentateuchal narratives, is a vast subject. This brief introduction, I hope, will help the viewers to read further on the Pentateuchal studies. May God bless.